Welcome to our newest MEN video. It's kind of exciting. We've been working really hard with a really dedicated group for a while. Thanks to Limestone Learning Foundation and Mr. Axford's LEAP class, who've been fantastic, and a diverse group of student actors from across the whole board, right?
And not to mention 5.5 years of people asking for a video on how to do MENDing Conversation. So.
And a few teachers brave enough to step into the fray and help us out.
School, by its very nature, it's a place of conflict.
Yeah, it's, people bumping into each other every day. All these occurrences and interactions between students and teachers of all different ages is just something that's going to end up happening.
That's right. Of course, when conflict arises, we have to do something about it because other things have to happen in school. There's learning, there's activities that have to get done.
Well, learning, you don't want to disrupt from the main purpose of school, which is just teaching people and not having any conflict so we can deliver the best education possible.
That's right. But of course, to solve conflict takes time, and some of the ways that we solve conflict in school are sometimes just to separate the people that are in the conflict situations. The only trouble with that is the emotional intensity of those conflicts often rises. There's he said, she said situations, and it polarizes everybody. Everybody continues to feel bad for a long time, and sometimes it's not the best way to handle that.
If people don't get a chance to talk to each other to try and solve the problem, then the problem's only going to get worse.
Yeah. So how could we take an alternative approach, just separating the antagonist? If that doesn't work as well as we think it should, what's an alternative to that? Well, if we got these people together and we had them talk to each other and understand each other and get to know where they're coming from, what they're thinking, why they were motivated to do certain things, then we can actually start to fix what's wrong with those relationships, get some mutual understanding, and get the community back on track.
If there's no alternate perspectives between the two parties, it's going to be the one person seeing only their point of view and not really caring what the other person thinks. And so it's important to have both those perspectives when you're trying to solve one of these conflicts. Otherwise, you're only thinking about yourself.
Yeah. But how can we create these healing situations where people have a chance to talk to each other, to listen to each other, and to empathize with each other? Well, we're about to find out one approach that's had some success in our Limestone District School Board.
Our original intent was?
To find that perfect MENDing conversation.
Show them what it absolutely, totally looks like when it's perfect. And there is no such thing.
No.
That was part of our learning curve, nor does there need to be.
No, I think as long as your focus is on the repair of relationships, the focus is on helping the students understand the impact and not on a punitive way of looking at things, then you're doing a restorative conversation.
Yeah. Although the distinction became even clearer as we did the work, right? Because people weren't looking at it at all punitively, but they were maybe guiding it too much. They were too helpful. They were doing the solution-focused stuff, the teachable moments, all of those things that teachers have a hard time letting go of because that's what they do every day. So how to have I guess ultimately we came to the distinction between the supportive conversation and the restorative MEN conversation.
And I think what we keep hearing time and time again from teachers is that we don't have time to do these conversations. And I think the reason being is the supportive conversation gets us through it too fast, and I don't think it really helps us get to the solutions or to the interests. Mm-hmm. And what we have found over the course of doing this video is, if you're getting down to those solutions, mm-hmm. you can get yourself out of those conversations fairly quickly because the kids then take it on themselves
to complete the process.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a real learning piece for us, and then trying to make that distinction, we kind of broke down the key elements of a conversation, right? That do make it a little bit different. So that was the opening, the empathy, developing the empathy, which moves into the crosstalk, which is the mutual empathy, and includes
The need for silence.
and then working towards that mutual solution so that the ideas are generated ideally by them, to the actual closing, which provides space for follow-up, for anything more that needs to be done, for check-in.
Well, and I think it also speaks volumes for the kids, because they see that, that this just isn't a one-off, that you're not only having this conversation and helping us get through this, but you're committed to it just as much as we're committed to it.
And committed to us.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a natural progression to think about breaking it down into the opening, empathy, crosstalk, including silence, mutual solution, and closing. So the first segment, right, the opening.
Really sets the stage, so.
Yeah, it does. So what can you do to make people feel at ease, right? Knowing that this is an uncomfortable situation. So often that's simply acknowledging that.
And it's funny how often we forget to even do that. If you imagine yourself in a conflict and you're being brought together to have a conversation with somebody, wouldn't it be nice to have it acknowledged that this is awkward, that it's not easy, and it takes a lot of courage to sit down, but it demonstrates your commitment to those types of, that language is helpful.
You guys look a little bit upset about what's happening here.
Yeah.
Danny, how are you feeling right about now?
Upset because he didn't give me my ball
Okay,
back.
all right. So do you guys want some help? I mean, I might be able to work through this so we can get you off to class.
So essentially we're establishing some sort of agreement to mediate up front. That's kind of the primary focus.
And common ground.
Yeah.
When you're identifying those things, they're both feeling that. So you're right up front, you're establishing the common ground.
And reiterating that wanting to solve the problem, because often just that intent is what will carry you through to the end, that you've got that.
Do you want to carry on with this conversation? I know that you've been pretty upset, but I had to come in here, and I'm not sure where she's at in this whole thing either, but I understand this has been going on for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're committed to solving this problem?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's check in over here. Hannah, I've asked you to come here, but it's your own free will whether you want to stay or not. We can handle this a couple of different ways. Now, what I'm hearing from Clara is that she wants to fix this problem. Do you want to fix this problem? Or this issue, whatever it is? I don't know what the problem is.
Well, neither do I really, but obviously it's just going to keep on coming up, so might as well get it over with.
Okay, so are you committed to telling your truth as you know it?
Yeah.
Okay, and you will tell your truth as you know it?
Yeah.
Okay, at any point in time, if you're feeling uncomfortable, either of you can end this just by saying, Miss Stevens, we need to stop talking right now. I'm getting upset. You okay with that?
We're kind of already feeling uncomfortable, but yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
No, fair enough, fair enough. Conflict is not easy, but we gotta meet it so we can deal with it and get on.
Well, and you'll find too in a lot of the videos that we'll show, folks did a really good job with the opening, with putting down the creating the safety. Because you can't have a conversation if people are not willing to sit and talk to each other. So you really have to establish and putting that onus back on them that I'm just here to guide. I'm not here to solve this with you.
And do they want your help?
Exactly.
I mean, maybe they don't. Maybe maybe they'd rather have someone else help with it. So, or maybe they really don't want to do anything with it at that point in time.
So Annie and Katrina, I want to thank you both very much for coming and meeting with me. I understand that something happened today that you're both really upset about. Yesterday, I'm sorry, it was yesterday. So I was hoping that together we could have a MEND conversation and try and work this out. Katrina, do you want to try and solve this problem?
Her first. I'm not talking.
Annie, do you want to try and solve this problem?
Yes.
Katrina?
Yes.
Okay. Can I ask that out of respect that we're going to take turns, and so when one of you is speaking, you're going to wait for them to finish and just listen. So you'll both have your turn to speak. Is that fair? Okay.
A couple of times in the video you'll hear people talk about the truth.
Oh yeah, we can't get away from that.
No, I know, it's still there, and you'll hear us in our training a lot too, that even us, we grew to understand that there is no such thing as the truth. That we're talking about people's truths from their perspectives, and being cautious not to stay too long in storytelling, because that tends to get you
polarize.
into the right and wrong and who's more to blame.
Yeah, so really focusing on what is your truth. Is there anything you need from one another about how you're going to do that?
I guess not interrupt each other while we're talking.
Okay. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you need?
No lying.
Okay. What are we talking about when we're talking about lying?
Not telling the truth. Not omitting something.
Okay. You have your truth, and you have your truth. And they might not be exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
Remember we talked about the truth thing before? You telling the truth. Your truth is about what's going on for you, inside you, in your heart. Can we stick to that part?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think acknowledging people's feelings right up front. You know, what are they showing? What's their body language telling you? And where are they at? And how upset are they? And, you know, that can help just calm it down a bit, eh?
And the more you get used to creating this safety, the more informal it can become. I mean, you'll see in the videos...
Like the ground rules?
Exactly, yeah. You'll see in the videos that it's fairly formal. There are some that are really informal, and there's just the informal way of throwing it out there, what do you need to talk to each other, is so much more uncomfortable, or so much more comfortable for the kids.
Yeah. So allowing them to create what is the environment they need. So you're trying to create that space, and then once you create the space, really, half of your work is done, right? Like you really, the power of that process just kind of works its way through.
Okay, girls. I'm so glad that you're here, Emmy, and I'm so glad that you're here, Hannah. Obviously, we've come together in not as great of circumstances that we've seen you in the past. We've had lots of time and where we spent lots of time together, and whether it's been outside chatting about what you did on the weekends or whatnot. So I'm sure this is a little bit more uncomfortable for both of you, but I'm really glad you're here. It's my understanding, I spoke with your mom, I've spoken with your parents as well, and that the two of you have been good friends in the past, and that are willing to have a mending conversation. Does that sound right?
Yeah, we were good friends, so she's backstabbing me.
Okay, well, can we just, before we go into all of that, I do have a card that I have here, and it's the mending card that I use often whenever I have situations with other students. And do you mind if I use that, and we can go over some of the ground rules before we begin?
Does it matter to me?
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. So on this here is, do you want to solve the problem?
Of course I do.
Well, that's excellent. How about you?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, well guys, guess what? We're already a step ahead of the direction that we want to go in, right? Okay? Because if you both didn't want to solve the problem at all, then we could walk out the door right now. So that's excellent. So I'm proud of you guys. It's hard to do.
Empathy. As you know, for our training, there are three very crucial components to a mending conversation. We talked about one already, which was the common ground, also motivation, but probably for us the most important is empathy. We can't express this enough, how important it is to get to that empathy stage as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah, and continually build it. That's the whole basis of the conversation. You're building relationship and understanding by developing empathy. So you start that by modeling, really, right? Recognizing, that, acknowledging people's feelings right up front, naming them, responding to them, validating them. Doesn't mean you agree. And you've said that a couple of times now. That's really important to you. You needed it fixed right now. What makes that so urgent for you? What's that about?
I just really didn't want the end of the day to come without it being dealt with.
Because?
Because then I would need to show my dad when I got home.
And that's a problem?
Yeah.
Because?
Because my dad would be really unhappy with my mark.
And what would that look like?
He would start screaming, and he would bring my brother into it, start comparing me to him again. And I don't want that to happen again, because it really doesn't feel good.
So it sounds like you're afraid you'd be treated really unfairly by your dad.
It's understanding that what caused that conflict is not necessarily the root cause of that, and having to explore, you know, the comments that they make over and over again, or something that you clearly know is bothering them. It's having the understanding to go to that level, to get the kids to, and you do that by validating their feelings and then exploring more. What was that all about for you? Can you tell me
getting
more
to the
about
interests,
that?
right?
Exactly.
What is that bottom of the iceberg piece that's really driving the conflict that you need to unpack?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I messed up playing soccer, they always call me a loser.
Oh, what's that like for you?
Well, it doesn't feel good. My stepdad calls me a loser too, so it just makes me
Okay,
think of that too.
Wow, all right, so that just completely caught me off guard there. What are you hearing Danny say there, Pat?
Well, it's just that I get really, because they said that I had hyperactivity, so I just get really excited, and then I say stuff that sometimes I guess I don't mean.
Okay, guys, you're throwing a lot at me here now. I'm hoping you guys are getting what each other is saying. I'm hearing that you get called a lot of names out in the schoolyard, and now your stepdad is calling you names, and you get really excited because of ADHD. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get to here is how do you guys think you're impacting each other?
And how you get that empathy is quite interesting. One of the things that came evident while doing the video is that you don't even have to talk sometimes to get that empathy. There was one scene where one of the teachers didn't want to interrupt because the conversation was going so well, that all it was a pat on the shoulder. You know, it was that gentle touch. And you could feel the empathy coming from that. And without interfering with that conversation, the teacher was able to express, you know, that they were there, that they were listening.
So she called. I couldn't. I was at my Gramps' house after I got home from the hospital.
What hospital?
Gran had a stroke.
Oh my gosh, what? Is she okay?
She's home. We had to kind of keep Gramps company Saturday night. He was really, really in bad shape. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be disrespectful or anything when you were talking, but half the time I was just trying to stay awake.
And often it's just a look, right? The importance of those facial expressions, when you look at the videos and you see, oh yeah, they really are interacting and it really looks like they're understanding one another, it really involves a lot of facial expression and reaction, and because that other form of interaction.
Oh, girls, what's happening out here?
She put a kick me sign on my back.
Oh, okay. There's a lot going on here. I heard quite a bit of a ruckus. Can you tell me what's happened?
Well, I put a kick me sign on her back, but the only reason I did that is because she always bullies me in class and gets all of her friends to it, and I think she deserves to get payback. I don't want to get kicked. It's not like I physically hurt you. You hurt me inside, though.
And what you're looking for is that aha moment. If you can't say to yourself, aha, then you haven't gotten there yet. And maybe you might need to explore a little bit further. And then when you do believe you have that aha moment, then it's time to capitalize on that and start to
move to the next
next level.
Yeah.
Okay, what are you hearing?
I'm hearing a very one-sided argument. Clearly, I'm not really going to get my opinion heard, so why don't we just come up with my punishment and make it clear?
Well, we'd certainly like to hear from you. What is it that you would like to have understood in reverse?
Okay, I'm hearing a lot of sensitivity talk. So how about we take a little bit of a rewind into public school? You ever hear that some people have really bad BO? Yeah, well, I was one of those kids. And I'm sorry if it offends you that I want to wear my sandalwood around school, but it's a little bit better than being stinky dinky all over again from 3rd grade.
May I speak?
What are you hearing from Hannah?
I can understand that point of view, but, like, personally, from my perspective, BO doesn't give me an asthma attack. I would take BO any day over something that restricts my breathing.
What are you hearing that's been difficult for Clara?
She's having trouble breathing.
Okay, so since that's the second time that we've mentioned that piece, what do you think is hard about that for her? You ever had trouble breathing? You ever seen anybody have trouble breathing?
My little brother.
But I think, I mean, really you can speak about it by just saying that it's really important that the participants feel that you get them,
Yes.
right? You understand me, you get me, you're here with me, that's what you're building.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's it's a natural process, but it means that you're very focused and very intent on them and their needs and working with that.
And it's challenging because we're trained to be solution focused. And so it sometimes it gets overlooked, that empathy, because we have a solution in our mind, and it would be the perfect solution, but the kids aren't ready yet because they haven't explored the parts that hurt them the most.
Yeah.
The difference between the positions and the interests. Looking at the cheap BFE. So you have your opening, you have them ready to talk to each other, you've created your safety, you've explored, you've got some empathy. Now what do? Getting them to talk to each other as soon as you can, and not to be afraid to allow them to talk to each other. Don't jump in automatically and cut them off when they're talking. Back out, physically back out. So how do you get them, Judy? How do you get them to start talking to each other?
Well, we can all use multiple strategies, right? But I think really it's getting them to acknowledge what they're hearing one another say. So often, just asking, what did you hear said? Not, did you hear what so-and-so said? Because the answer to that is yes, closed question, no information. Do we really know? So having people explain in their own words, encouraging them as much as typically we're asking the question to, can you tell one another that, right?
What do you,